Hey guys, today I have an incredible find. We'll just call this a walk-in Wednesday, even though it came to me at the SOS, Show of Shows in Louisville, back in February. So maybe it was a Wednesday, probably not. But one of our subscribers named Joey from South Carolina, he told me about this gun before the show, and I was intrigued. He sent me pictures. I was intrigued even more. And then he brought it to SOS, not for sale, gave it to me in order to do this video. So that just shows you how long it takes me to get around to doing some of these videos. But this is an Engraved Mauser HSC that was a presentation gun to Otto Kron. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the man and what was behind this presentation, and I hope you'll find it both entertaining and educational. We're going to start by talking about the gun, but a little bit about Otto Kron. And by the way, don't you just love that name? It sounds like a bad character, a bad actor in a video game. Otto Kron. And that's the guy that you're trying to kill. Otto, true to life, actually was kind of a bad dude. He kind of looks like a tough guy in here. In fact, there is a postcard of Otto because he was a winner of the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. And for the German war, what they considered heroes, they often would make these postcards. We saw that with Luftwaffe aces and other people, but because he distinguished himself in battle, they actually made a postcard of Otto Kron. But I have to tell you right off the bat, this guy was a bad dude because he was in the Death's Head or Totenkopf division of the SS. And he was sent to Russia, and they were involved in some of the behind-the-scenes executions and things like that. So this is not a guy that we would admire at all, but it's an interesting story and worth telling. Let's take a look at this gun. Just background information, we have this book on our website, which is about the Mauser HSC. It's a good resource, and from this book, I can date this pistol to 1943. And right here is the serial number of the gun. It dates to 43, but the engraving was done obviously in 43, but it's to commemorate something that happened in June 28th of 1942. It took a lot of searching to figure out what this was to commemorate. Well, what we know is O.W. Kron, which is Otto Wilhelm, for the Germans who always correct me. We don't call them waffles, by the way, but they will let me know in no uncertain terms that it's Wilhelm, Otto Wilhelm Kron. So this presentation was to him for something that happened on that date. Now, I guessed and mentioned to Joey that that could be his birthday because I actually had a 1934 engraved gun similar to this, not factory engraved, but nonetheless period engraved, and it was presented to somebody on their birthday. So I guessed birthday, but he let me know otherwise, and let me show you. Okay, this is from the website Traces of War, and this is just a printout from the website, and I go to page 2 because it goes over Otto Kron's history. You can see here, these were all the events that were significant, and then his awards. He was involved in the Battle of France, 1940, and received a Iron Cross, second class. Then he was involved in the invasion of Russia in 1941, Operation Barbarossa. He actually served under Theodore Eicke, who was infamous war criminal, and served with distinction in Dachau before he went off to officers training school and went into the Panzer SS. So he was in a Panzer SS division. Before that, he was a guard at Dachau. He served under Theodore Eicke. Theodore Eicke, I mentioned being infamous. He was involved in the Night of the Long Knives and also war crimes in Ukraine and Russia. Served under him with distinction. And then here's that date, June 28th, 1942. He received the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. This is the write-up. It was originally written in German, but this is the commendation that he received with the medal. The highlight of this award, this Knight's Cross that he received, was the Battle of Demyansk, which was very famous for Germany in that it was just south of Leningrad. The Germans were completely surrounded by the Red Army. He was sent in to help with the breakout. He took a bridgehead, captured it intact, and then advanced on the enemy and was able to break through and help with the breakout. The last part of the commendation said that he fought a particularly fierce battle. It was forced combat and partially was fought in belly-deep swamps. He was able to smash through hostile forces and force them to retreat in a display of death-defying devotion. Through his decisive action, Kron has a major share in the successful conclusion of Operation Fallrep, which resulted in the breaking of the encirclement around Demyansk Pocket. Demyansk Pocket is much like our Bastogne in that their troops were completely surrounded, and then reinforcements came in and broke through and really saved the lives of thousands of German soldiers from being annihilated. Back to the gun. I want to make sure I say loud and clear, this is not factory engraved. If I look at the Mauser book, both 1934 Mausers, Mauser Lugers, and Mauser HSCs were not factory engraved. However, that doesn't mean that somebody who preferred an HSC couldn't take it to a local shop and have it engraved, and I believe that's the case with this engraving. I believe this is period engraved. I've examined it extensively. First of all, the logo was removed, the proof marks were removed, and again, when we've talked about factory engraving, this is a very familiar gun to you, as presentation to Hans Philipp. But you can see that they preserved the logo. They also did not engrave over the proof marks. In this case, those were all engraved over. So I'm convinced that this was probably done by his comrades. Now, part of the history that I didn't mention was after receiving the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross in 42, 43, he was wounded, severely wounded, almost took his life, severely wounded, walked with a limp the rest of his life. But during that time of convalescence could have been a time when his comrades, again, he saved many lives, his comrades could have had this done for him and presented to him as a commendation of the battle that he fought at Demyansk. Again, I wanted to go back and show not only his name, but you'd see the SS runes on the back. And I'm doing that to show it looks like it is silver inlay, which is very cool. Now let's talk about why I think this was not done recently, but actually was done at the time. First of all, I'm not sure how anybody would have, I mean, it took a lot of digging to figure this out. And so usually if somebody fakes something, they're going to do Goebbels, they're going to do Himmler. They may not be brash enough to do Hitler. But when you want to take somebody that's pretty well known, Otto Kron was not well known. And it took a lot of digging to find out this date with the Iron Cross. So for that reason, I think it probably was period done. But also, as I look at the engraving, we've talked before about the acorn and oak leaf. This gun is also acorn and oak leaf. So let's compare the two. Now this one was actually, this gun, obviously a Walther PP, was taken from the factory by GIs, and that was, it was brought back by a GI, taken from the factory. There are no proofs because it was taken in 1945. But I picked it because it's a good example of the oak leaf and acorn. You can see the one at the top, the oak leaves are a little bit larger. It's not only the acorn leaves, but if you look at the acorn and the leaves, I've said before, you can actually see the little tiny veins. I'm not talking about the main vein here, but these little tiny veins. And on the one that was done by Walther, you can see right here the same veins. Now, for the people who are trying to replicate this, they usually don't go to that much trouble getting all the little tiny veins in there. But this is particularly Germanic. Now, these engravers were employed by the Walther factory. This was probably somebody in the area. They had engravers who could pretty much not copy the work, but do similar work. And I'm sure they picked out a engraver who was pretty well known. The military employed a lot of engravers for presentations and things like that. Not only guns, but also presentation daggers. So you can see even the grip screws are engraved. So the style, the quality, And the presentation piece, even like what's Otto's middle name, that was hard to find. So it really takes detective skills to track down all of this information. But again, I believe this was done at the time, probably during his convalescence in the hospital after being severely wounded, and was to commemorate his bravery at the Battle of Demyansk. Now, there's a couple of things that came with it, most notably, and I'm not taking it out of the plastic because it is ripped. Where it was folded, it's ripped right down the middle. But this is the capture document after the war, June. He was actually, it seems like there's evidence that he was captured in April of 1945 in Austria. Again, he was severely wounded, so he never really left Germany other than Austria. Because he was limited in his ability to serve. They said he had a severe limp and was handicapped in that way. But June of 45 is the capture document. And you can see ornate 7.65 Otto Mauser serial number, and there's the serial number of the gun, which matches this. So the capture papers indicate that it was ornate at the time of 1945. It also came with this book, which I've never seen before, but it is dated December of 1937, and it just looks like a book of all the people in the SS. And lo and behold, and if I go all the way to, I don't know what page it is. Oh, here it is. Page 156, we see Otto Kron listed here as member of the SS. His party number is in the 3 million range, which means by this time, 1937, there was 3 million party members, and there's his SS number. His date of birth, by the way, is 1911, which he lived to an age of 44. I'm going to go over his death in a minute, but he died in 1954 at the age of 44. It also came with this, which is an early SS belt buckle. On the back, you see the RZM marking. And then again, you see an RZM marking on the leather along with SS runes. I don't know a lot about belt buckles, but this looks like an SS belt with a buckle. And there's nothing that says this was his other than this all came together. And however, we also have the tunic. So let me pull that out, and I will warn you ahead of time. It could be a little controversial. Okay, so this came with it, all came together, and this is presented as one of his tunics. Now, there's pictures of him with this similar style tunic, although in black and white. This all looks dark gray and black. But you can see here he had the death's head. He has this collar tab. Then later he has different ones. This does not have his Knight's Cross. Most of them don't show this ribbon. So when we look at pictures and compare these side by side, it could be the same tunic. But every time, and I'm just being totally honest with you guys, whenever I have a tunic, and I had a very expensive tunic at the Show of Shows, I went to 7 dealers who just deal in the uniforms. 7 dealers all looked at the same tunic. 3 of them said it was right. 3 of them said it's definitely not right. And 1 said, I don't know. So I'm sure if I took this to a show, I'd get people to say it's not right. Other people might say it's right. But this did all come together. I'll show you the inside. I'm sure people are going to make comments. Please do not call me a dumb idiot, but I am showing this because it's fascinating. Here's the inside. There's a strap here, which I've seen before. I mean, not a strap, but a tab here. And probably the most, same tab here. Just saying that for those people who study these uniforms. And the most controversial part looks real to me. I will tell you, this looks absolutely real to me. I didn't even see it till Joey said, look inside. Because I said, is there anything that ties this to Kron? And I'm opening this up. And you can see it was made by Mueller in Berlin. And there's probably a date here. 19, I can't read it. It's probably not filled in, but you can distinctly see Kron O. So that's very, very cool. As I said, it all came together. I did find this on an auction from 2018 altogether. So it was definitely together in 2018. And this assembly, assuming this tunic is correct and tied to Kron, is one of a kind. These collar tabs, by the way, I believe are Panzer Division, which he was. This is a Waffen-SS Panzer Division. And this is an important part of it, this insignia, which looks like silver bullion thread. And then the Death's Head Division. This looks correct as well. Some moth holes in there. But I'm sure I will get a lot of comments. People love to beat me up about this stuff. These are not mine, but it does belong to Joey, and I think he should be very proud of this assembly. It's very cool. Okay, so I already mentioned that he died, Otto Kron died in 1955, but here's a little bit of irony in his, around his death, and that is he died in Dachau. I mentioned he was captured in April of 1945, and it seems like he was a free man for a while. I mean, for several years, he wasn't reined in. The Allies were going after some of the higher ranked officers first, SS officers. They were rounding up, and since he'd served in a death camp and a death squad, they eventually got around to him, evidently, and he was arrested. At the time of his arrest, he was living in Germany and holding down a job and probably trying to keep a low profile. But as I said, they caught up to him. And ironically, they put him in Dachau. He was there for several years. I believe it was 51 to 55. The article about his death said he died under mysterious circumstances, meaning he was in good health, but his death certificate said that he died due to a fatal disease of the larynx. That may be a euphemism for he had his throat cut because they said he was perfectly fine and then he was dead. As recorded in his death certificate, he died of a disease of the larynx in Dachau, which is where he started his SS career. I hope that didn't sound too insensitive, but as they say, that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today and enjoyed the presentation. I welcome your comments, but keep them respectful. On a video like this, I always get beat up, but I still love doing it, and I think it's important to share the history of these guns.